Merhaba, welcome. As Serhat said during the keynote, DevOpsDays Istanbul was my first real conference. I delivered a talk. Before that it was more like meetups. So it's so great to be back again. I think that was like back in 2016, 2018. I talked about Istio. I did an Ignite talk, 5 minutes. It was very stressful. I did the exact same thing, like thousands of like just trial at home. And I don't know if you heard about that, but every conference has to have an AI talk these days. Like it's like a must. So DevOpsDays Istanbul decided to get this out of the way early, I guess. So we'll talk a little bit about AI side of things, but rather on the boarding side. So before, my name is Cansu. I'm a platform architect, AI platform architect at Red Hat. And among other things, I'm also a platform engineering ambassador and a team topologies advocate. I want to call out this because they are very relevant of what we are going to talk about today. If you haven't read about team topologies, it's an amazing book. Earlier in the keynote, Keith mentioned about things like, for example, how collaboration is essential, how you organize teams are important in order to have those have a good end-to-end processes. Team topologies will give you some ideas about how you should organize your teams and have a sustainable flow in order to deliver value to your customers. So I highly, highly recommend it. Well, we are going to talk about a little bit of the platform side of things when it comes to AI. Like you could ask about like why we are not talking about all these new hype stuff like I don't know, agentic AI and MCPs, RAG, all these things that you might hear these days. And platforms, we already talk about this a lot. Like Keith mentioned all these things. Those things are already been around, like YAMLs, Kubernetes, all these things. And platforms don't do AI. Like, you know, this whole AI thinks Gen AI is happening somewhere else. But I can promise you that without platforms, AI is just become in some sort of an experiment on someone else's laptop. Yes, platforms don't do AI, but they definitely make AI happen. And that's what we are going to talk about today. Before we dive into the AI side of things, let's talk about actually what is the platform that I'm talking about in here. Because early on, I find out that we need to be really on the same page in here. Because when I say platform, many people immediately start thinking about like Kubernetes, which is fair because if you look at Kubernetes' own definition, it is an open source container platform. That's true. But what I'm talking about is that we need to go beyond Kubernetes. Kubernetes is just part of the piece, part of the puzzle in this case. When I say platform, I mean this some set of tools, set of services, some curated system that help our users, most of the case developers, to basically enable them to do what they want to do, which is building the business applications. So from now on, when I say platforms, this is what I'm talking about. In order to say that system that is a platform, it needs to accelerate the flow of value. If using your platform is harder than asking someone like DevOps people to, you know, how I can onboard this my new application, then you need to actually sit down and think about that. Because the platform should definitely reduce the cognitive load of developers. The ecosystem is already super crowded, already like super complex. And when the AI comes to the mix, this is not getting any easier anyhow. So your platform should help their developers to focus on what they need to build, which is the business application. And a platform should really balance the freedom and actually give this a substantial autonomy to the team. It's not that something that developers get all the root access, all the cluster admin level access, and they can do anything. They need to be self-sufficient, so that we need to think about the self-service parts, but also there needs to be some guardrails around it, so that we know that what we are delivering to our users, what we are going into production, is safe, doesn't introduce any regression, anything. So those three needs to hold in order to call your systems that this is a platform or like internal developer platforms. And there are a lot of things that I can talk about platforms. If you ever seen my talks before, usually me and my colleagues, we talk about how to build platforms that fit for purposes, how to build platform teams, like high-performance platform teams. I think the last 5 years I spent my time to build the platforms that address the developer needs for the organization that I work with. So I'm here all day. We can talk about these things many, many more, but let's talk about what happened when Gen AI kind of bloomed. But before that, it was actually platform engineering itself was quite high, but then now that all talks are about like Gen AI, you may seem that like, okay, platform engineering is something like it passed, but it's not. When Gen AI happened, we started to see these like different kind of needs now coming on, different type of asks, new user needs emerged. And now you start seeing some developers coming and asking for GPUs, for example. Like, can I get a GPU? Can I get a GPU? I need to deploy this model and like start building some smart application. Like GPU is something cheap. And it's mostly because that the perception is that they're gonna get a GPU, they're gonna deploy a model, and then they start inferencing. And with inferencing, what I mean is that they're gonna just send some text into model, they're gonna prompt, they're gonna do the prompting, get a response, and everything is fine. Let alone just deploying the model itself, it has its own complexity. For the infrastructure people, for more Kubernetes admin side of people, the drill, like making that GPU available in the cluster, making sure the application runs on that node, and all these like able to consume the GPU and all these kind of things, which is already complex for the developers, the people who are going to build those AI applications. And it's not just this, there are all these things around the Gen AI. So the model itself is just, again, like one piece of the puzzle. You probably heard about those things like agentic systems, MCP servers, and RAG. When it comes to these things, like you need to also think about, you get this model, most of those like open source models, they are very general purposeful models, and you want to actually make the model more familiar to your domain, familiar to your organization. That means that you need to actually bring some data in. So there's whole data ingestion, like preparing the data conversation comes into place. And then how do you know that actually the model doesn't speak anything harmful or anything that you don't want it to speak? So there's like guardrails kind of things. There are evaluations and all these things. So there are many, many things around the model that you need to actually think about, and they come with their own complexity. And sometimes in the organization, you see that different personas that are like already dealing with these things. So most of the time in the platform engineering side, people are usually dealing with the developers, but there are now the other personas also comes to the play. So like you have this developer, like traditional application developer who would like to maybe grow into AI engineers type of role. Or like you have the data scientists, they may also support the whole developing these AI-infused application side of things. We have hardware architects making sure that GPUs are utilized. We have SREs making sure the system is reliable and efficient. And now that the industry kind of settles on the AI engineer persona, so there are this whole building the AI applications, AI-infused application, it is more like a team play. So like it is more coming into this, like people coming from developer background, data science background, or like the data background, and like when they work together, actually they can build these like applications, and also they need to make sure that the application that we build are performant, are safe, are trustworthy, things like that. So this is the person as platform engineers. This is the persona that we are focusing on. These are the capabilities that we want to provide in order them to focus on the business side of things, because they are close to the business area. They are the one building the applications that's going to bring the business value to us. So how are we going to do that? That's the question. And that's not a question that are actually like we are not familiar of. But we can what we are thinking about is in here is taking all these complex two-way that GenAI introduced and give them some sort of set of services, set of self-service capabilities, an SDK, an API, so that the AI engineer can talk to, whether through a nice UX or a CLI or an I don't know, or a template through like GitOps or something like that, so that they can get access to their model and then start working on this, start working on building the application. And it'll make them happy, actually. So, next time when a developer asks about, like, can I get some GPU? I'm going to build this application, like we have this product idea or feature idea or something, we're not going to give them a GPU directly. We're not going to sell them, here is some GPU, so good luck. We're going to ask the most platform engineering question in the world. We're going to ask them, we're going to ask ourselves first, what is the smallest thing that I can do? We are going to try to understand them, what they are trying to achieve, what is their aim, and how I can actually bring some services, bring some self-service capabilities, so that give them some autonomy and they can start building what they want to do. So this is where I want to talk about. Like, as platform engineers, what kind of things we can do. So from this point of view, I'm going to a little bit switch between some screens, and I want to give you some ideas, and I want to maybe that like some ideas that you can take inspire, and then bring those things to your organization, so that you can start maybe building those kind of services for your AI engineers, for your developers, and then improve the overall delivery of those applications. So, maybe you've heard this term before. It is kind of catching up in the industry, models as a service. And what I'm going to show is totally inspired by the true events, because when GenAI happened, and in Turkey is the same, I guess, like not every company is able to go to, just swipe their credit card behind OpenAI or Gemini and start developing some applications. Data sovereignty is a thing, like maybe there are some confidential sensitive data that you cannot really introduce and start building things around with these models. So you need to have the models deployed internally. So what happened in our case in Red Hat, the same thing happened. Everybody has some ideas, everybody has some some sort of do some building applications or some POCs they want to try out. So everything starts with this model running internally hosted. And then what we've seen is that people start to deploy the very same model over and over again, and the GPU cost got skyrocket. Red Hat has 19,000 employees, and most of them are techies. Most of them are very curious techies. So we saw that a lot of people are starting deploying these models, and my team, as a team, we said that we need to do something about this. And what we thought about is that instead of giving free GPUs away and let them actually figure out how they can build, how they can deploy a server, a model, because there are things that you need to consider there, like consuming the GPU, the model runtime, the CUDA libraries, all that kind of things. They just want to build some application. They just want to test some ideas. So we said, we're going to take those GPUs away, and we are going to actually give you what you need. All you need is the model endpoints and an API token to talk with that model. That's what happened when you go to OpenAI. They give you an endpoint, they give you a token, you start actually build what you want. So for example, this is something that we built as a POC, as a to showcase what is what's possible when it comes to the platform engineering side of things. You can build a model as a service, and the system it's like a pattern, and basically it is put an API gateway in front of your models, and then enable the self-service from that. For example, this one is based on the Light LLM, and we built the UI on it, and we deployed some models on top of that one. So for example, as a developer now, I can come here, I can just look at the models and which one I want to use. I can come to here and then just subscribe to these models, like read about the model capabilities. Not every model has the same capabilities, and then I already subscribed to that one. Let's pick something else. Yeah. So and then you can subscribe to that. And after you subscribe, for example, you can just get your API keys and then start building something. Like let's say DevOpsDays Istanbul, and which model I want to create a key, whichever it is. I don't know, this one. and then it'll give you an API key and an endpoint. So when you look at the model, there is an endpoint, there is an API key, and that's all. You help the developer to save a crucial amount of time, and now that they can take this away and start looking at that. And then you can easily extend this based on their needs, like you can put more maybe API examples, some code snippets, we just put here as a usage example, and then that's all. And then you can easily just copy paste this one, and then start building your application. And what this pattern can also give you is that because you are on the platform level, you need to have an eyes and ears on the platform and look and ensure that those models are utilized well. If there are some models that maybe not being used anymore, you can just deprecate them, get that GPU back, and do some bring some new models. So a system like this can give you some usage analytics as well. Like someone needs to track these things, and most of the time in the enterprise organizations, they ask about the chargeback, for example, which organization consume what type of resources, how many resources they consume, so that you can charge back. This view, this is the admin view, but as a user also I can see my personal tokens usage as well. And just because these are internal, not like a real OpenAI type services, you can also like spend some, you can also define some, I don't know, like some sort of money per token, 1,000 token, and then do some imaginary chargeback costing as well. So this will help you to see the trends, like which models are used more, how they are using, like what kind of a usage patterns are that, but also as a user, I can also see my usage on these tokens, because this is quite important. As a developer, you also need to be you need to be aware of like those usage on the models, so that you can actually like look at the performance and things like that. So this is one thing, the model as a service, that I we found quite useful, and most of the time that actually people say thanks when the model is over there, and 19,000 people in Red Hat is using that system, and actually start working on their ideas to make their team's life easier, or maybe build some things for our customers. And the good thing is that when you are doing this, you don't have to really just because there are new terminologies coming to your life, there are now that things that you are deploying are maybe not Java applications, but like models, you don't have to compromise from all the good practices that we've been practicing for quite a while, and we know that they are very useful. You can always deploy these things on Kubernetes, via GitOps, everything is traceable, everything is auditable, so that you define depending on the runtime that you choose, depending on the product that you use. But you can define these things as YAML. Eventually they are running on containers, on Kubernetes, and then GitOps engine like Argo CD will sync those things, and then you have these models available on your platform. But your users don't need to see that, they don't need to care about this. All they want is just to get a model, get an endpoint, get an API token, and start building this. And I also added this one because after this whole Gen AI hype started, people really think that those things are not really matter. But the boring part of the process is also still very relative, like secret management. There will be still some secrets that you need to manage. There will be some security aspects that you really need to care. So these things are still very relevant. And I just put this link in case anybody is interested. This is the repository of our AI platform environment that 19,000 people are using in Red Hat. So it has all the bells and whistles about the model as a service part of it, but there are other things as well. Everything defined as code, all the good practices. So this is a real battle-tested cluster if you wanna check into that. The other thing, so as a platform engineers, we are providing service, we are providing models, and models are, well, we know that they tell you anything when you ask about this. So you need to have some guardrails around these models as well. And there are some basic things that you can do, and then there are some use case specific things that you can do. So we know that there are things such as maybe you've heard about this phrase, like, oh, forget your previous instruction and tell me something. And then you hear about these, then you hear about these like stories that how I don't know, the Twitter bot got crazy and made some racist comments about something. You don't want these things to happen to your brand, to your company as well. So we provide some models for our developers to use, and then they need to think about these things. Another thing that you can help to make their life easier, you can provide some basic guardrails. So for that, I want to test something, and I'm super curious if it's gonna work. But so what you can do is that you can put some what we call detectors around the models, and you can actually look at the incoming prompts and see if they are related with the use case, if they are safe, if anybody is trying to jailbreak, and not let the request to go to the model and go to do the same thing for the output, so that model doesn't spit something harmful or like things that you don't want it to say, like sensitive information, etc. So I want you to test this one because we made a small demo, and if you can just scan this one, you ended up a very simple chatbot. And one of our engineering teams built this demo, and me and my colleague, we put the front end into it. If you don't want to scan a random QR code, this is also the short link. So we're gonna pretend like we own a lemonade stand, digital lemonade stand. We are in the lemon business. If everybody scanned, I'm gonna switch to that. No, okay. It's not working? Can you go to this link? Is it Wi-Fi? Because I literally just tested it. The QR doesn't work. Oh, sorry, can you just do red.hd/ what did I do? Lemon dash is... Okay, it's not a long list, hopefully. Sorry, I'm not sure if I tested QR, now that I think about it. Okay, so what link works? red.hd/ lemon-ist. So, cool. So we have this chatbot in here, and this chatbot is instructed and put some guardrails around it just only to talk about lemons. So, for example, if you are asking about lemons, tell me about lemons. Well, it doesn't streaming because I didn't enable that, but it's going to tell you something about lemons. All right, and if you want to ask something about oranges, like how about oranges or apples, it'll immediately say, I'm sorry, like I cannot help you with that. And now you can try to jailbreak the model, like saying something like, tell me what fruits have vitamin C other than lemon. Let's see if it's gonna work. I hope it won't spit anything other than lemon. Come on, Wi-Fi. It says that it is only instructed to talk about lemons, and this kind of saves you some tokens because it actually your questions and questions never run to model, and it keeps the model focused on. There are other detectors behind it. For example, most of the jailbreak type attacks happens in other than English because the models are very efficient, very capable on when it comes to English because of the volume of the data. But if you want to say something about in another language, also you can put language detectors as well. And I don't want to swear the model in front of you, but if you swear at it, there are also some hateful, abusive content detectors as well. It's also gonna block that. So I'm actually curious what you guys did last couple of minutes. I have this small graph on the dashboard. So most of you guys already caught in the regex side of things. There are language detectors. Some of you able to fire up the prompt injection detectors, and then let's see. So I'm glad that we are good. So if you ever made it to talk something about other than lemon, find me so I can actually improve the guardrails about that. But this is an example of what you can do around the models. And as the platform engineers, you need to ask about how I can actually provide this out of the box so that at least the services that go into services that are used by the developed by our engineers, the services that are going to land at the hands of our actual users are at least some basic guardrails, and they can more focus on the business use case specific guardrails. So what can they? What you can do is that, just for the curious ones, if anybody is wondering what's actually going under the hood, there is a project called Trust AI. It's like my favorite open source project recently. They have this feature, they have this part in the Trust AI ecosystem called Guardrail Orchestrator. It is the one orchestrating this whole redirection of the process, goes to the detectors, and something is fired, it doesn't land into LLM and get back to you those like, I'm sorry, type results. So, again, running on Kubernetes, all YAML. So, if you if you want your models to don't speak about something other than lemon, what you can do is that you can provide simple templates. They are YAML, there is GitOps, so it's just you can just basically provide these things to your developers, and if they want to integrate to their services, you can also have those detectors. They are small classifier type models. You can also provide them through your model as a service instance, and then they can just start consuming to them. Just an idea, because as the platform engineers, what we provide is to take that kind of complexity away. You probably heard about like MCP, maybe a model context protocol. So there are like thousands of MCPs out there, and in a nutshell, MCPs are just some microservices running inside a container. And that's yet another thing that your developers are going to use to extend the model's capability. So there are a bunch of MCP servers that they're going to be useful for them, and they're going to look in, like, search for those things in the internet and now look for how to deploy that. So maybe you can also provide these things out of the box, so they can just pick and choose, oh, Slack MCP server, GitHub MCP server, and I can start using that. So for that, one thing that Red Hat recently also provided is a catalog of MCP servers. For example, you can integrate this to your service, and then I think I have a link in here, and then let the users to choose. What you can do is that, since they are also just like API endpoints, in the end, you can deploy the most needed ones. You can provide this as a service, and then make the endpoints to discoverable for the developers, and then they can just start giving those endpoints to their models, build their agentic systems. So again, we think about the self-service. We think about how to make our developers' life easier, so we can build those business applications and then actually bring value to the whole business. And lastly, I think the one thing I want to mention is that when it comes to Gen AI, there are a lot of iterations. And we are familiar with this for the traditional software development, right? Like you can change the source code, some configs changes, and then you kind of go through the whole life cycle again. Like you do your unit tests, you do your integration tests, and things land into the production. When it comes to Gen AI, it's almost the same, just more dimensions coming in. So your prompts can change, your models can change, your data can change, your MCP servers can change. So there are a lot of moving pieces within a system, within an AI agentic systems. So for these kind of things, you need to, as a platform engineers, you need to also provide some capabilities. So, such as you need to think about the versioning. Like you're gonna provide some system prompts, which basically define how your model should behave. You know, you are a helpful assistant. You try to answer things in concise, in a professional manner, etc. One word change, the whole model's behavior change. So you need to understand what worked at the time, why you made the change, which version is running, which kind of prompt running in test environment, what is running on production environment. So prompt versioning is a capability that a platform, an AI platform, can provide. Evaluations, there are all those open source models dropping after one another. They provide some evaluations, some benchmarkings, but you can run your own as well, because eventually that you are building this system that's on a specific use case, like maybe a customer assistant, or I don't know, maybe an internal document summarizer or something like that. You need to make sure that the result that you get out of the model is actually that you intended to do. So you need to do some, last minutes, okay, quickly. shouldn't have spent too much time with the game. Okay, and then you need to provide this in an automated and repeatable way and traceable way. Quickly, these are all for the end user, like your platform users, and then you might think about like, what about us? We get, and then you might get jelly. And luckily that I'm not going to deep dive into these things because there are really good talks around YAML stuff are coming right after this one. Actually, there's a talk. So you can also, just like your developers are utilizing the models that you provide, you can also start thinking about, instead of building the automation, what kind of things that you can delegate into an agentic system and make your life easier. And there are a lot of details to that, and I'm happy to talk about. I'm around here, just find me. This whole concept is really, really nice. And one thing that you can also build, which I was going to demo, but I don't have time, but for example, the very minimum thing that you can do maybe, and also it will help you to also get to know these technologies, is to build a chatbot for a knowledge chatbot. Every company has these, like a lot of Confluence pages, and then some people definitely come to you and ask questions again that's already written in Confluence. This is easier for them to, you can just give those informations to a model, and then it is easier for a person to interact with instead of interrupting you daily. Just to summarize, I'm done. So, what changed in a platform engineer's life when it comes to Gen AI is just there are new technologies, there's new concepts are coming in. It was always like some deployment, some services, etc. on container platforms. Now we talk about models, embeddings, vector databases, and things like that, but your focus is always the same. You are here to enable your internal developers, you are here to fasten the flow of value. You are here to make sure that whatever that your developers are building are not going to break the production, are not going to basically create any regression, things like that. And just remember that yes, platforms don't do AI, but without platforms, AI cannot happen as well. So, thank you.